We begin the current Daf, Mesech Bava Metzia Daf Ayin Gimel. We begin on the bottom of Ayin Beis and Beis, 2 lines up in the bottom of the Yommi, where the Gemara introduces this idea we already mentioned once before, called Tarsha. And regarding this type of business that borders on the problems about ribbis, as we'll see. Today's Daf, the entire world. Discussing today's Daf are so someone is transporting his bundle from one place to another place. When people generally do that, they're generally doing, when you do import-export, you want to obviously get something from somewhere where it's cheaper, some country far away, we know where they make stuff cheaper, and then you import it, and you get a higher price. And the question is, if his friend meets him on the way, and he says, look, buddy, I'll give you the higher price, give it to me, that's the question where we run into problems about potential ribbis. Sabasad Rabbanan, which we were just discussing from the previous stuff, of as it applies to the prohibition about lending one saw for another saw. Regarding the donkey drivers, donkey drivers, they actually, what's interesting, as we'll see in the Gemara, a discussion, they could charge they could charge a cheaper price in the price which really goes for more. And essentially, they're going to be giving, like we call it, more for less, which is generally a problem, even though they're waiting. They get the money, they get the capital, and the investor or the buyer, whatever you call them, doesn't get the produce until 6 months, 3 months, whatever later. So it should be a problem about a loan on interest. In the Choshen, the Gemara is going to tell us exactly possible reasons why it's not a problem. Pardesa, regarding a person with his orchard. And as we'll see in the Gemara, regarding when someone buys from a paradis, what exactly is he buying, and why it won't be a problem about ribbis. So begin the current daf, the bottom of Ein Beis and Beis, 2 lines up at the bottom of the Amud, says the Gemara, so someone is transporting his bundle from one place to another place, as Rashi explains, the obvious. And he's going from where it's cheaper. And that's how people buy, how people make money. You buy from where it's cheaper, and you sell where it's more expensive. Today you don't have to go anywhere. You could just do that on Amazon. You buy from one place, and then you sell it for a higher price somewhere else. Okay, he's in the middle of transporting. You could just think exactly how that would be in the technological age. But it's the guys going from where it's cheaper to more expensive. I'm wondering if it would be from one website to another website. But anyway, so his friend finds him, and he tells him, you know what, Snolly, do me a favor. Give it to me. I'll transport it. I'll do whatever I need with the money until whatever time we make up. And I'll pay you. You know, you were going anyways to travel all the way there to make this money. Don't worry, I need capital anyway. Let me take your produce. I'll take care of it. I'll take the money. I'll use it. I'll give you back whatever it is that you would have made anyway. I'll give you back. You know, let's say it's selling for $10 a pop over here. You're going where it sells $15 a pop. I'll pay you back for these items, $15 a pop, which you would have made anyway over there. So the Gemara says it's very important. It depends on the following criteria as we continue to about Gimel and Alf. Rishus Moicher, if the seller accepted responsibility for the insurance, it was still in the possession of the merchandise until it's sold, it's in the possession of the seller, then mutter. Then it's actually permissible for this buyer to do this procedure. Why? Because that means it's not a quote-unquote loan until it's sold. Now, when it's sold for the higher price, it was still in the possession of the original owner. So he's only borrowing it from him when it's at $15 a pop. He's not borrowing at $10 a pop and giving it back $15 a pop, because it was always in the possession and responsibility of the seller until it was sold. Then the guy could use the money. But although he was, and Tais discusses but isn't he doing the work for him? Okay, Tais discusses that. But B'shus Lekeach, if it's in the possession of the buyer, so meaning the buyer took responsibility the moment he took it from him from the cheaper price, that means it's a right now a loan. But then he's giving him back more than his money when he pays it back with interest. So therefore, also that would be forbidden. Now, continues the Braisa, this is the halacha of sabesa. So what we just said before is tarsha, which is like investments when you have people doing work for you. Now this is really the halacha of sabesa. someone's transporting produce from one place to another place. His friend finds him and says, look, normally, give me the produce. I want to eat it here. You tell me, Michael, I don't want to give this to you. Although you're willing to pay me now, I'm on my way to somewhere I could get more for my money. He says, don't worry, Vani Elacha, I will pay you back at that time from Peicha Sheshli Baisamakam. I have produce in that place. Don't worry, you don't have to transport it. You don't have to import it. When we get back home, I'll give you, I have already over there. So, says the price. If he actually has produce over there, it's mutter. Because right now, it was transferred, even though they didn't do Mashiach. And Sabisa is not a ribis ketzutza. It's only an avak ribis. It's a concern that price might be inflated. So if he has, the Rabbanim are not geyser. But if he doesn't have that in that produce in that place, us it's forbidden. Why? Because it's basically rewarding him for his waiting that you'll give me now and I'll give you later. He's giving him in the more expensive place. That's an increase of value of waiting for money. Well, that's the ribis violation, at least of the rabbinic violation of sabisa. Now, because
either way he's going to give it to him in a month.
Right.
And either way he's going to give him more.
Right.
This is if it belongs to
Exactly. The Yeshlei principle is like Isidu. It's like Acha Emtza Mafteach. Acha Yova Beni. It's Isidu. Was willst du? Darfst du sein?
I understand, but at the end of the day, it's
right.
This guy's not reaching that location for a month. He's going to get.
Right. But it's money in the bank. It's already money in the bank. Right. That's what I'm saying. It's already yours. Again, we do it by the rabbinic ribbis. And therefore say, okay, asasfura kemen soibel for the rabbinic ribbis. Now we continue with another idea, which is related to the idea of pisuk, of the prepaying. So we're like saying a few different ideas over here. In this brisa, the donkey drivers, how do they make money? Because they take produce, they bring it from the farms, from the cheaper place, and they bring it out to the cities where it's more expensive. So malam b'makom hayoker, they could go ahead and they could charge in the more expensive places kibamakom azol, as if it was in the cheaper places. Meaning, they're allowed to take money from the wealthy balabatim, where the price is skyrocket, on the condition to give them, at a later point in time, produce according to the cheaper price. And says the Brayso, they don't have to be concerned that it's ribis, which essentially it seems like it is. They're giving him, it usually goes for $50 a pop. They're paying him $20 a pop. He says, don't, and I'll get it for you in 6 months' time. Now, this guy has capital, and he's getting at a later point in time more for his money. That's ribis, because that's called schacham tanas mais. No, it's not a problem. Says my time. Why is this not a problem? There seems to be a huge violation. Says no. Rav Papa says because nichalahu, it's actually a benefit for the seller, the donkey drivers, because the magluhu hutara, by getting money from these wealthy balabatim, they are recognized as merchants, and they're also recognized by the balabatim of the cheaper place. So they're going to give them on credit because he's the guy who wheels and deals. He's with the highfalutin VIP crowd, and he's going to make money now by them. So as Rashi explains, even if there would be no delay of time, even if we bring it to him right away, it would still be preferable to the donkey driver to go through the effort to be the agent, to accept responsibility of the journey for this alone, that his name is getting out there, so that he can get business from the sellers in the farms, in the cheaper places, and therefore that's not considered as a violation, because it's not really the money that he's giving him, that he's giving him back more later on. Even if I gave it to you right now, I'd give you the cheaper price. So it's not like you're giving less to get more. It's simply because I want to get my name out there. Another approach is, he says, no, nichalahu, the reason why this is pleasing for the donkey drivers is the moisli gabayu, is because the people of the cheaper place, when they hear that the donkey drivers are not making much, they're selling it for dirt cheap also, they're going to sell it to them cheap so that they don't stop buying from them. They go, you guys, you're selling a large amount of quantities. You guys are not charging so much, so we got to give it to you also very cheap because we hear you guys are not really charging so much, but they want their business. So to get them cheap, therefore they prefer to also sell it cheap so that they get them to sell cheap to them. So as the Mamai, but now what's in between these two different interpretations? The difference between them is Tagar Chadta, a new merchant who's not recognized on the scene yet. According to the first interpretation, the Maglu Tara, so that you have because he wants to get his name out there. But according to the one that says he's going to get a cheaper price, that you don't have. Because since they don't know who this guy is, they don't trust him to give him at the cheaper price, a cheaper price, and they're not going to give him cheaper. So therefore, it would only work according to the first interpretation, not according to the second. Now, based on these svaris, the Gemara brings the following story: that there was Besura, in the place Surah, Azli Arba. It was selling 4 measurements for a zuz. Bekafri, however, which is the name of the place, Azan Shita. It was, you were getting 6 measurements for a zuz. That's cheaper price. So Yoav Rav, so Rav, who is from Surah, gave zuz lechamri. It's like the bingo, the kaska, like there, over there, you send them. He gave money to the donkey driver. Says, go and do me a favor, get from there. Here it's 4 zuz. Here it's 4 measurements. There you can get 6 measurements for the same money. When the bagels used to be, you can get that store was able to give you the 12 bagels for the, what it was, I don't remember what it was, something cheap. But V'kibla ointzid orcha, Rav took responsibility if anything happened on the road. But he only took from the donkey driver that he sent, only took 5 measurements, not 6. Says, well, why? He should take 6 because he took responsibility for the journey. So there's no ribis, meaning it was like his own, not like a loan, because the guy didn't take any responsibility. And as Rashi explains, even if he had not taken responsibility, the mission that we just taught right now, the chamarim, the donkey drivers, could charge in the more expensive place, like the cheaper price. So what's the problem by this donkey driver? Why is he taking only 5, not all 6? Says the Gemara, you're right. A respectable person is different. He has to be more conscientious, and therefore he didn't want to take all 6 because of the appearance of wrongdoing. Now, they had the following question. What's the halacha with scrap metal? Or, as Rashi explains, other types of merchandise, like broken pieces of gold and silver and other types of metals, scrap metal. What's the question? Do we say that, regarding tavua, grain, which is something that's common, which people will always be doing business in. So we say these 2 reasons of either that he prefers to get his name out there or that he wants to get a cheaper price. So that's where we say that you're allowed to do this selling the cheaper in the more expensive place. Because it's actually, you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because of these alternate reasons. But regarding other types of business, where you don't have these 2 svaras, because someone who sells this right now, this gets discontinued. He's not selling it tomorrow. The merchandise that he bought today, he's not buying tomorrow. So would you say the same svaras that don't apply? Somebody says, you're right. He wanted to do the same heter with linen garments. But Rebbe didn't let because it's a one-time item that's not always being sold. Those say actually Rebbe you want to do the same heter with the scrap metal. Because like we said, that this is something that it's not a regular type of merchandise. And therefore, they're not giving these benefits. They're not going to give it to you at a cheaper price. They don't expect you to come back for it. And therefore, hence, it does not have the heta, and there would be a problem about the rabbinic ribbis. Now, continue on this theme that we spoke about for pisuk, which is prepaying and the concern about the price going up later and looking like ribbis. So the Gemara brings pardesa. Someone wants to buy wine from a vineyard at a cheaper price, meaning all the fruits of the year I'll pay this price, and he's buying it after it's already like starting to bud. It's like a small little thing, but it didn't yet reach the stage of fully ripened. but he's paying the price right now, which obviously he's going to get a cheaper price, but he's only going to get it later on when it ripens. So what's the halacha? So Rav says it's forbidden because you're prepaying at the time of the harvest, you're getting a cheaper price. Ultimately, later on, you're going to get a high quality item. That's agar natrale, and this is a classic ribis transaction that could happen all the time. You prepay, and then you get cheaper price. Well, that's essentially you're getting more for your money. That's a ribis situation. Shmuel says no, it's permitted. So the Gemara explains. Rav says forbidden, because since later on it's going to be worth more. Well, this looks like the reward of waiting, which is what ribis is. Shmuel says no, it's permitted. Why? So he explains the svara. Even to have a beit tiyua is like a terminology of charata. Like we find this term toyal l'rishaynis, like regretting the earlier things, meaning at times things could go wrong in the vineyard. It could hail, it could rain, it could freeze, and everything, the crop's going to get ruined. Now the buyer is accepting all types of risks involved of possible loss. Oh, that's why you're getting a cheaper price. So that doesn't look like as if you're getting more for your money. No, you're getting a cheaper price because you're willing to entertain risks. That's not a problem about rabbinic ribis. Now, however, Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg says, Rav said it's forbidden. He agrees that it's going to be permitted, b'toyrei. When it's a place that they harvest the vineyards with oxen on wagons, and they have the wagons go between the rows of the vineyard, which then they get easily ruined from the feet of the oxen, from the stalks at the roots of the ground. With the nafish pesadayu, there's a lot of potential loss over there that even Rav would agree that does not look like agar nater. You're getting a cheaper price because you're willing to take the losses, the potential losses of getting ruined when they do the harvesting. Now, continuing on the theme of sa b'sa, so Amalahu Shmuel said, Lahanu de Shabshi Shivsha, which the way Rashi explains it, is that you have these balabatim, you have these homeowners, these employers that lend grain to their sharecroppers. A sharecropper is a guy who I'll take your field, I'll work, and I'll do the work, and we'll split the profits. So he lends his sharecropper seed, and the sharecropper pays it back by the granary of the new grain when the new grain comes. So Shmuel said to those balabatim, he says, look, hafoichi ba'ara, make sure that you assist a little bit in the working of the land with the plowing and the harvesting, at least a little bit, that you acquire part of the land itself, which really means to say that the seed in that part of the land is really like yours, and therefore that's not being lent, and therefore when he gives you back, it's like giving you back your own. Why? Because if you don't do this, so you're giving him seed, he's giving you back seed. That's sa b'sa. That's for us, that's forbidden, as we'll see later on, because of the potential increase in value, which is rabbinically forbidden. Similarly, Rava said to those who were guarding the fields until the harvest, make sure, although your job is really finished when they do the harvesting, make sure you assist the people of the fields in the threshing of the grain in the granary, and in transporting it, help a little bit then. And the reason for that is because since you wait to get paid until the end of when the whole production of the smoothing out the pile is over, because of that they give you a gift more than what your wages are, which is potential ribis. So what you should do is you should assist so that your work should continue until the season, the granary is over. And then, what do you gain like that? So that your employment is not over at a hishaita until that time, because you're still working. Because the halacha is the schiris in mishtalem el b'saif. The payment of employment, that wages is only obligated at the end. Then there's not going to be any waiting, because your job only ended right now. And if they're going to add on, that's not reward for having waited for your wages, because your job didn't end. Rather, it's vahishait. It's at that moment that they're just giving you cheaper for the price of the grain. It's just like a gift they're giving you, and that's not agar nater, because there's no nater, because you didn't wait, because your job just ended right now. Additionally, Amalei Rabbanan LaRava, the rabbi said to Rava, Ka'achal ma ribis. The master, you Rava, you're eating, you consume ribis. What's the Rav doing wrong? He says because the Kuli Alma, because all the other owners of fields that lease out their fields to their sharecroppers, Shakli Arba, they take 4 kor for the price of the leasing of their field. Now, and they remove their sharecroppers. You have to be out by Nisan. I need my summer home. You guys can work only up until Nisan. They force them to harvest the grain and to get out of there by Nisan time. Now, you mar, not Luat Ir, you wait until Ir, which we're right now in the beginning of Ir, and since you let them stay later, the Shakal Shita, and you take 6 instead of 4. Now, the assumption was because he waits to get paid for the lease, he lets them stay a month longer, so they're adding on. Well, it's over in Nisan already. Because you're waiting, now you're charging them more, that should be potential ribis. So Amlu said to them, no, to the contrary. Atun kaved, you actually are the ones who are doing inappropriately. Because the truth is, the land, la'ardis mishtabed, is really indebted to the sharecropper until the grain is fully ripened. So therefore, it's actually not appropriate with you guys that you force. Because when you force the sharecropper to get out by Nisan, and the grain is not fully ripened yet in its stalks, you're causing them a huge loss. And that's not right, because the sharecropper has the right to stay when it's fully ripened. I wait till Ir. And I make them have a huge profit from that. So like Rashi explains, when I take more, it's because I'm just taking the wages of my field, of the lease, because the reason why I charge more is because it's worth more. It's not because I'm waiting for the payment of the 4 kor, so because I waited longer I could get 6. No, my property is worth more because I let them stay a month longer, which is really what the appropriate thing is. Don't tell me I'm doing wrong. You're actually doing wrong by kicking them out too early, which is not right. I continue Talmud Beis on a related theme regarding the halachas of ribis as it applies to Mekach and Memker. So Rav Mori Bar Rachel, which you don't usually find an Amoira based on his mother's name, but Rachel was the daughter of Shmuel. She was taken captive and had married a non-Jew, who he later was Megayer. His name was Isser Geyer, the Ger Isser. Now Rav Mori, he was conceived when his father was not Jewish yet. He was born when his father was already Jewish. Because of the honor, they made him called on his mother's name, not on his father's name. But be that as it may, Mishkin Le'ahu Nachri Beisa. There was a certain non-Jew who had given him security, his house, because he owed Rav Mori some money. Now Hadar, subsequently the non-Jew went, and Zavna L'Rava. He sold, like we had a previous case in the previous daf, that you have a security, he sold it to Rava. So, because it's still owned by the guy, it's just, the security. So Natar, Rav Mari waited 12 months, then Shokal Agar Besa, and he took the rent of the coming year, and Amti Le'Rav, he brought it to Rava, who was the new owner. So Amalei said to him, Haidule Amtoi Lamar Agar Besa, I want you to know the reason why I didn't pay for last year's rent was because the Stam Mashkanta is Shata. In general, security is for a period of a year. So, if the original non-Jewish owner had wanted to remove me, he could not have removed me because security lasts for a year. So even though he sold it to you, he couldn't kick me out, so I didn't have to pay rent to anybody. But Hashta, now that it's already, it's coming into the next year, here, you own the field, you bought it, here, take the rent for the coming year. So Malaysia, Rabbi said to him, if I had known that this house was security to you, master, I would never have bought it. Why? Why can't he buy it? So Tais actually explained the Masal Notar is because we mentioned this on Daf Samaches, is halacha of Bar Metzia, who has first rights. And we said the reason why it's called Mashkanta is because the Shchunik Abur, the closest neighbor, so to speak, is the guy who has the security. So he really has first rights to buy the field. He says, I had no clue that it was security by you, I would never have bought it. Hashta, but now says Rava, kedinem of din alacha. I'll do to you like the non-Jewish law is, which is their law is more lenient. Anytime they did not yet remove the lender by paying it back, they don't take rent. They consider it as if it's already sold to the lender. So I'm not going to collect from you the rent until I force the non-Jew to pay up the money that he owes you. Now, as Rashi explains, this is not ribis to Rav Mori, and that's why you would think that's why he wanted to pay, because Rava didn't owe any money to Rav Mori. It was the non-Jew. So then, why did he want to give it back? It was only because he held it wasn't his own money. That's why he wanted to pay the rent, not because it was. So therefore, there's no problem about ribis over here. Al Kapanim, he said that, but I'm not going to take the money because the non-Jewish law, which I'm coming from them, they also wouldn't take money until the loan was paid up. Another story, Amalei Rabbi Mebanishla Ravashi says, Chazimar, I want the master to see that Rabbanan de Ka'achli Rabisa, the rabbis, they consume forbidden interest. Why? They give money for wine in Tishrei, but in Mivchalei B'Tevis. So in the beginning of the year, they have some money from the summer the in-laws gave them, and then they pay for the wine in Tishrei. And they only choose it in the middle of the winter, when they want to take good wine. Now, had they taken the wine from Tishrei when they gave the money, the wine might have soured. So it comes out, and this is very important, because they gave the money in Tishrei when the market price has not been established yet, so the seller accepts responsibility. And they're getting higher quality later on. That should be ribis. Says Rashi, what do you mean? Didn't we say on the previous daf that yesh loichitin, if the seller has wheat, there's no problem? Here also he has wine. Says Rashi, no, because wine normally sours. Maybe the whole thing would sour. So we wouldn't even be able to say a yesh shlai. You don't even consider it as a yesh shlai because who knows that the whole batch might have soured. So this is a problem about ribis. So Malay said to him, no, it's not true. And he has a very, very cute defense. He says, Inunami, the yeshiva students, Achamar Kuyavi, they're giving money for wine. It's like a lumdish shtickle he's saying. Achalala Kuyavi, they're not giving money for vinegar. Me'ikacha, in the beginning, when they bought it in Tishrei, the Chamar Chama, whatever was wine, the Chala Chala, whatever was vinegar is vinegar. Meaning, as Rashi explains, the scientific explanation is that the whatever is going to sour, the kilkel is already inside of it. It's just not recognizable. They never bought ruined wine. They only choose it later on when it's evident. But that's where they always bought. So the fact that it could have soured is it's like no, I bought wine. This wasn't wine. So don't tell me that might have soured and my wine might have soured. Das heißt nicht kein Wein. This is not wine, and therefore, so he's saying that wouldn't be a problem. It's not like there's any thing that they're getting better quality later on because of prepaying. Additionally, Ravina Havayovli Zuzi, Ravina would give money Libnei Akra de Shanvasa. So Shanvasa is the name of the river. Akra, like Rashi says, Kontari Balaz, like the country, is the community that lived there at the edge of that river. Ravina would give money before the harvest to give him wine at the time of the harvest, according to what the going rate was, which is permitted. But they gave him a little bit, they poured him a little bit more on their own without any conditions. So I was like, given to Ravashi. Malay says, Misha, is this permitted? Because this might be a problem because I'm prepaying them. I'm getting more than what I paid for. Is this a problem about rivers? Malay says, it's permitted. They're just pardoning this to you because you never made up with them. They're giving on their own. They're not saying, as a favor that you gave us money that we didn't have to, that we were able to use the money the past few weeks. We're giving you this. No, stama matana that they're giving, and that's allowed. But Amalei, he says, but there's a different problem. This actually is not their property. What happened was these people from this Akra de Shanvasa were wealthy people. They would see people who would leave their fields and run away because they couldn't pay taxes to the government. So they would take the fields and the vineyards, they would pay the government taxes, and then they would sell the produce. So he was questioned to the Rav was maybe the wine that I'm buying from them is stolen goods by me. Why? Because karka is ein nigzels. You can't steal property, so it really belongs to the original owners. When I'm taking the Paris, it's stolen goods. No, they just ran away because they couldn't pay taxes. But it's still their field. Not mafka. They just ran away. The guy's a fugitive. The guy runs out of the country. So Amalei says, no, it's not a problem. You know why? Because our the land, lataska mishabda, it's indebted to the property taxes, which we all know too well how difficult property taxes are. Well, Malka, the king says, Mandi of Taska, whoever gives the property taxes, Lechlara, could eat the produce, could consume the land. So it's dependent on who pays the property tax, and if it's not stolen. Similarly, Amalei Rapapa said the Rabbi Chazimar, let the master see, Hanan Rabbanon, there's these rabbis, the Yabi Zuzi, they give money, a karga de inchi, for the personal tax. Every single Jew had to give money for his presence to the king. Now, if a guy couldn't pay, there were these wealthy rabbis that would pay, and they would work. Basically, you're a serf of the Lord, and you have to pay your ransom money. If you couldn't pay, whoever paid it for you, so would work for you, would work for them. So his problem was that the rabbis are working these guys. Somebody says, yeah. He says, Hash now Ika Shchibu. He says, had I died, had I passed away, I wouldn't have told you this thing. It's a good thing you asked me this question. Rav Shesha says like this: Murkai Dahani, the seal of slavery of every Jew, Betavsa de Malkamanach, is in the treasury of the king. And they're all slaves to the king. And that's law because Dina Machuz Dina. Malkam, the king says, Mandala Yav Karga, whoever doesn't give the taxes, the Mandala Yav Karga will be indebted to whoever gives the taxes. So the rabbis who pay the taxes could work these guys that they pay the head tax for them. A related discussion, Rav Sa'iram, who is Achud Rabba, the brother of Rava, have a takif inchi, he would grab people that were not upstanding, and he would make them carry the wagon, which was made to have a person ride on, of Rava. So Rava was this gadladar, and they had to carry him. So he would schlep these guys that were inchid lamali, like they call them, like people that were just hanging out, doing inappropriate things. He says, guys, we need you. And he schlepped them and put him into the service of working for Rava. Amalei Rava. Rava said to him, Shabakavata. He told his brother, you're doing very well. Because we learned this in the Braisa. If you see someone that's not acting appropriately, how do you know that you're allowed to put him to work? Because the pasuk says in Yikra, it says when it talks about slaves, it says you should forever keep the non-Jewish slave, and then it says uvachechem, and in your brother, meaning it's really usually there's a comma there. It's and then comma but you could also read it you should also enslave them. Now, you think you could do to any fellow Jew, even if he's acting appropriately, no. You read it, and your brothers, the fellow Jews, a man and brother, etc., which says, you're not allowed to work him hard. But for certain brothers, you're allowed to enslave him. Now, continue on the previous discussion, Amr of Chama, he says, someone gives money to his friend, Lemizvan le Chamra. He wanted him to buy him wine at the time of the harvest season. And the guy that you asked to do it was negligent. He didn't buy it for you. So Misham Lei has to pay back wine according to the cheaper price that you asked him to buy. Because they call azul like it goes for aparvasa dizol shafat, which is the name of a place which wine was bought and was sold over there for the abundance of all those buying wine in the harvest season. It's like a Costco, like a cheaper price. He has to pay you back according to what the price goes over there, because that's what he was supposed to do for you. So Mema says, I said this teaching on front of Zimna. He says, wait, when Rav Chama say this teaching, this was said behind stam. If he just told him, buy me wine, they didn't say which one. So then it says negligence, and then he has to compensate him for that. But regarding if he says this wine, then he doesn't have to compensate him. Why? Because who said the guy who sells that specific crop, that specific Cabernet would specifically want to even sell it. Maybe he wouldn't want to sell it. So not necessarily did he cause him a loss. Rabbi Shloimy, he says, actually, I feel a yain stam namiloi. That even your regular wine, you don't have to compensate him for. What's the reason? Because asmachta he. Meaning, even if he guarantees and he promises, look, if I don't buy for you, I'm going to pay you back for my own. That's an asmachta. That's where you exaggerate a promise where you don't think it's going to happen. You don't realize that you might be negligent. And since no kinyan was done, so therefore, vasmachta loikandi. There is no kinyan on asmachta. So the Gemara asks, why is this different than the Mishnah we learned later on of Kuvdalam and Aleph? The Mishnah there is talking about regarding someone who takes a contract to split the profits of his friend's field. And he leaves it fallow, and he doesn't plow and doesn't plant. So we evaluate how much the field should have made, and he has to give him because that's how much they made up in the beginning. So it says the Mishnah, the guy tells him, he promises him, if I leave it fallow and I'm not going to work it, I'm going to pay you from the best that I got. So you see that since he caused him such a loss, and he's relying on him, that's not an asmachta. He only accepted this according to how much loss that he caused him the loss. So here also, he caused him the loss, so why shouldn't he have to pay him? Says the Gemara, no, they're different because Hasam Yadi. There the guy had the ability to plow and to plant, and he didn't, so therefore he has to compensate him. Here it's not necessarily in his ability, because like Rashi says, maybe they wouldn't have sold it to him, and therefore it's not considered as biyadi, and therefore it's more of an asmachta, and therefore it's like Kanya, and therefore he would not be responsible even by yayin stam, and to any type of those things.